Shalom again from All Israel News. Tom Trapp up here, along with Joel Rosenberg, and we are really kind of stunned this beginning of our report, Joel, and a new poll out about President Joe Biden. Pretty interesting numbers, aren't they?
Yeah, although I'm not sure if it's stunning. I mean, it's I guess if you're a Democrat, it's stunning. I think for those who are concerned about how badly Joe Biden is handling U.S. foreign policy, I think it's actually somewhat encouraging. I remember at the beginning of 2023, I had former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on the Rosenberg report, and as I was talking to him, I said, do you think the next couple of years are until the election are going to be the most dangerous in modern American history, because world leaders are sensing the weakness of President Biden. And if you're going to strike and do something evil, this seems like the window to do it. At the time, we were talking, of course, about Vladimir Putin invading Ukraine and Biden's slow and rather weak response to that. For whatever else somebody wants to say about Donald Trump, Putin was not invading any country during the Trump years.
No, sir.
And yet Putin felt that he had there was no problem with him invading Ukraine. I think Biden has picked up and sort of caught up, but again, he doesn't seem to want to help Ukraine win. He seems to want to help Ukraine not lose, and there's a difference. And of course, Biden's horrible withdrawal from with Afghanistan right on the eve of the 20th anniversary of 9/11 was a disaster. He told us all that the Taliban wouldn't take over the country, the democratically elected government wouldn't fall, but it did, and the Taliban did, and that was a disaster. And now you've got Iran sending its forces into motion against Israel. This thing is going from bad to worse. So in that sense, Tom, I would say, and let's go through some of these numbers, but I think I'm actually somewhat encouraged, not by where we are as a country, America, but that people are starting to say this whole thing with Biden is it's not just the economy, it's the foreign policy as well as a disaster. And Biden, of course, prides himself as being a foreign policy genius, having been the former chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee and so forth. And I think we have ample evidence, but I think there's more to come of what a disaster this foreign policy has been.
Well, clearly, and on Israel, particularly, Joel, as you know, in this latest number, I'm looking at it right now, Biden's approval rating on the handling of the war with Hamas is extremely low. His disapproval is 56%. His approval rating is 34%. Those are not numbers that an incumbent president who wants to be seen as a strong foreign policy leader wants to have on his ledger.
Yeah, and let me be clear about something that, Tom, you know, but I just want to underscore to our audience, especially we've got our audience, of course, at All Israel News has been surging over the last 6 or 7 weeks. So there's a lot of people that are new to us. Let me say that I have been saying positive things about Biden's handling of Israel in the sense of being pro-Israel and coming to visit us during a rocket war. No American president had ever done that. Bring Air Force One in during an actual hot Israeli war with our enemies. He has defended us against scurrilous and slanderous, libelous attacks by many in the media that we bombed the hospital in Gaza and a number of other issues. He is resupplying Israel, and I think with munitions and other armaments, all of which is good, but that doesn't give him a pass at how badly he has handled the overall environment. Like, for example, just last week, the largest pro-Israel rally in the history of U.S.-Israeli relations, almost 300,000 people showing up in Washington, not much covered by the American press, but that was in President Biden's front yard, and he didn't go. And I think that's crazy. Like, I mean, again, people may have disagreements with Donald Trump, obviously many do, but he's pro-life, and Donald Trump, when there was a pro-life rally, went to the pro-life rally. Like to not go to a pro-Israel rally, or at least send a video or something, I think was wrong. And then on the same day, Tom, to give the Iranian regime, the biggest terror regime on the planet, to give them $10 billion was insane. And this is part of this. What I've been saying is this: Biden is schizophrenic or maybe bipolar on the issue of the Middle East. He, on the one hand, he does love Israel and he wants to stand with us, and yet he has created the conditions of weakness by which Iran felt that it could attack with impunity, because Iran keeps getting money, billions and billions and billions of dollars from Joe Biden. So they do not, the Iranian regime does not feel that Biden is doing anything to stop them. In fact, he's funding them. And, that is not pro-Israel. So I'll give him credit where he gets credit, where it's due. But overall, I think the American people get it. And I'm encouraged by that, that Biden is doing a terrible job overall in the Middle East. Let's look at these numbers specifically in terms of the overall, and these are NBC, Wall Street Journal numbers.
Yes.
Presidential job approval. Now in January, interesting, Biden was at 46 approval and 50% disapproval. So he was underwater, but not by much.
That's barely right.
But that was only 10 months ago, and now he's at only 40% approval in this NBC poll, and he's at 57% disapproval. Now, these numbers were released on NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday, and they said this is the lowest approval rating that they have had for Biden in all of their polling over the last 2.5, almost 3 years. And so that's pretty stunning. I mean, there are some polls that have had him Biden in maybe the upper 30s, but in terms of the New York the NBC poll, to have 57% disapproval, and then specifically, you're right, on the handling of the Israel-Hamas war, 56% disapproval, so basically the same, and only 34% approval among all voters. But then on foreign policy more broadly, this is interesting too. Again, in September, so before the October 7th war began, Biden was at 41% approval on foreign policy, 53% disapproval. Now that's bad, but it's gotten much, much worse. Today, we're at Biden is at 33% approval. He has dropped 8 points in 6 weeks or so, and his disapproval has climbed by 9 points to 62. So the American people are not happy, and I think that's why you're seeing whether it's Biden versus Trump. Trump is way up right now. If it's Biden versus DeSantis is up. If it's Biden versus Nikki Haley, it's Nikki Haley.
Yes.
Like every major potential candidate, Republican, against Biden is up significantly over Biden, which again, we're a year out from an election, but forget the election for a moment. This is just bad for the American people.
Very bad optics politically for Biden. And I think, Joel, it has something to do with what you said about the March for Israel in Washington last week. He not only didn't show up or send a video message, his vice president, Kamala Harris, didn't come. No senior administration official came. Chuck Schumer, the majority leader, was there, as was Mike Johnson, the new speaker, but nobody from the administration. And when they can't find time to come to a massive, almost 300,000 person march in favor of Israel, and yet the president was trotted out today, as we're recording this, to pardon the Thanksgiving turkey, which is an annual tradition dating back to Eisenhower. But being on camera, letting a turkey be pardoned from being executed for Thanksgiving dinner, that is a bad optic when people see there's a war going on and people are dying.
Yeah, it's not like he doesn't have time on his schedule. He plays golf. Well, he doesn't play golf really. He goes on vacation. Let's put it this way. He's not drunk.
Rides a bike.
He goes on vacation a lot. He has time to pardon a turkey, but doesn't have time to show up at a 300,000 person pro-Israel march in DC. He didn't even have to get on a plane. He only had to get in the Beast and drive across town to the U.S. Capitol, or at least do it by video. This is a problem, and I think that I want to let's shift to the positive. It is Thanksgiving, so let's say, what are some things that we can be thankful for? You just said it, and I want to underscore this. I think the fact that the new evangelical Christian Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, was there was very, very positive, and I like the fact that there was a bipartisan congressional support,
Yes,
where you had the Jewish Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Those two agree on almost nothing. But they agree on Israel, and Israel is our ally, and that Hamas is evil, and anti-Semitism is horrible. And they and there are a few other colleagues from the House and Senate were standing together, arm in arm, sending a bipartisan message. Why couldn't the president of the United States do that?
And something I would add to that is, not to interrupt you, but there was an ambulance driver. I had an opportunity, and we're going to be talking about that down the road a little bit. With 4 ambulance drivers from Israel who happened to be at the march, and I was blessed to spend some time with them. And one of them said, "Look, our job is to save lives. We're not involved in politics or policy." But as an Israeli, I have to say, seeing the Speaker of the House up there speaking as strongly as he did in favor of Israel, he said he was almost sounded to me, this was the ambulance driver speaking, saying he sounded an awful lot like an ambassador for Israel. And that's what is needed in this moment in history.
I agree. And Tom, I think it's important for our audience to understand that if you're an evangelical Christian and you love Israel, you sort of, it didn't seem like news, but it is news to people who are Jewish. Evangelicals, Jewish people still are astonished that evangelical Christians love Israel so much. They sort of increasingly know that that's the case, but then there's a test, right? And this is, the last 6 weeks have been a test, and a lot of people have failed this test. A lot of people on the progressive left who have said that they are against racism of all kinds, including anti-Semitism, and that they stand with Israel and never again, but when there was a test, they're for Hamas. And this is shocking Israelis that I talk to, shocking American Jews. And then the outbreak of this virulent, violent anti-Semitism on college campuses, in American cities, all over the society, is rattling American Jews. It's rattling Israelis, and it's not just in America, but since we're talking about what's going on in America, and yet evangelical Christians are standing with Israel, even in the darkest of hours. And again, I'm not even saying Speaker Mike Johnson did a better job than maybe Speaker Kevin McCarthy would have done. No, McCarthy is super pro-Israel also, and Steve Scalise also super pro-Israel. So the point is, when you have a theological understanding of God's love for Israel and hatred for anti-Semitism, you understand why these types of leaders stand strong. But it is not. It's still news and shocking, but in a good way, to American Jews, to Israeli Jews, and to others who I think question sometimes the sincerity of evangelical Christian support for Israel, as though, we get accused of, oh, you only love Israel because you want the end of the world to come and then you want us all to die, or there's all kinds of,
conspiracy
ways that
theories, right?
Yeah, but also
theological,
but understandably, given the history of Jewish-Christian relations, many Jews are like, I'm not sure why you love us, and so I'm suspicious. But then a moment comes like this, and you get to see who are your real friends, and evangelical Christians keep showing up as the friends.
Well, let's close the loop, because we're running short of time, and it's always great talking with you, but let's close the loop here and end the way we began, with the Biden administration. There's been pressure which has been put on Israel, quite frankly, by the administration to effectuate a ceasefire. And now we're hearing various reports. One is that a ceasefire will take place for 5 days, and during that time, some men and women, or some women and children, but not men, will be released. Other people say, no, nothing's been signed. What's your latest intel on the possibility of a ceasefire, however temporary?
Yeah, look, I want every hostage to be released, so I find myself a little less dogmatic about exactly how we get there. I mean, honestly, if I was held hostage by Hamas, I would want the Israeli government and the American government to be doing everything they could to get me out. I think that for Israelis, yes, we absolutely are committed 100%, 1,000% to defeating Hamas, but we want our people back. And so, you know, I don't believe in a ceasefire in the sort of way that all the left wingers or the UN Secretary General or others are demanding the ceasefire, as though if you stand for peace, then you are against stopping genocide. No, that's insane. But if we need a pause to get people out, I really don't see the harm. We're going to hunt down Hamas leaders and operatives from now to, until eternity. Like they'll never be safe anywhere. But if we need to take a couple of days, 4 or 5 days, as a pause, I don't think of it as a ceasefire. I think of maybe as a pause in fighting. But let's also say, as we head towards Thanksgiving, I'm very thankful. People are not hearing this on the mainstream media, but Israel is winning, and we're winning big.
Yes.
We are liberating large swaths of Gaza from the Hamas terror operation. We are liberating hospitals and schools that have long been held in the grip of Hamas terrorists. We're liberating them. The Al-Shifa hospital that was, Israel's been saying for a month, this is a terror headquarters, has been proven to have been a terror headquarters. There's now video of terrorists operating inside, of moving some of our hostages through the hospital. We found dead hostages, 2 of them at least, around the actual hospital itself. And of course, we found terror tunnels, and we found all kinds of weapons and other military gear inside this hospital. So the world that was saying that we were just, committing some war crime by going into that hospital, they're wrong. Israel is right. And this is a good thing. I will also say the video of Israel blowing up the Hamas government parliament building was encouraging. There's victories. There are victories. It's moving. I'm encouraged, but it's messy and it's painful. But we need more, not less.
Well, let's end on that note and wish you a happy Thanksgiving as well. But for everyone who's watching and reading, we really encourage you to stay close to All Israel News, because there are so many breaking stories that you literally are not finding anywhere else except on All Israel News. We appreciate your support, and we invite you to stick with us.